Culture is misunderstood. It's not the soft stuff. Yes, it overlaps, but it's really about your operations. And if you can have the right tools in place, you can impact the place where we spend the most of our time, which is at work. And we can make a difference. At the end of your career, when you are retired and you're looking at it on the beach, what are you going to be most proud of? Are you going to be most proud of all the financial performance that you had? Or are you going to be most proud of the difference that you made in people's lives? And so that's what our goal is at Culture Booster. We want to make a difference, improve people's work lives so they can bring their best selves to work each day.
Welcome into Facts Not Feelings. I'm your host, Brooke Furniss, and today I have Stephen Moore with me. We are diving deep into the core issues that shape our world today. And Stephen is the CEO and founder of Culture Booster, and we're tackling a topic that, and it is just something that gets misunderstood like crazy, and you're probably thinking to yourself, Brooke, what is this? What are we talking about? We're talking about culture. Culture, we've talked about this before. We're taking a little bit different spin on it. And why? Why is it so important? Are we talking about this yet again? You've heard it right. We're talking about it again. It's the culture and all its intricacies, the complexity. It's a topic that elicits, honestly, a myriad of emotion and stirs countless debates of, Brooke, we don't have a culture. Well, yeah, you do. And it sucks. That's what your culture is. So we're going to dive into it. Like I said, my guest today, Stephen Moore. He's the CEO and founder of Culture Booster. If you don't know him, you are in for a treat. I'm super, super excited to have him in with me. And Micah, thank you so much for making this connection with Stephen, because I know my life is automatically better for having this gentleman here with me today. And honestly, Stephen has made it his mission to untangle the misconceptions that surround culture, especially within the automotive industry, and from his journey to the helm of Culture Booster and how people generally just misunderstand culture. We're going to be exploring it today. We'll be asking those hard questions because that's what we do on this show. We're about the challenges that come with changing people's perceptions about culture. How does Culture Booster work to dispel the misunderstanding? But as we all know, we like to have a little bit of fun on the show. So we're going to have a little bit of fun as always. So if you've ever wondered, hey, is there a culture that can't be boosted? Yeah, we're going to get into that as well. And all the fun lightning round and questions as well. So let's jump into this. Before we jump into all the fun questions, Stephen, let's talk a little bit about you. How did you get into Culture Booster? How did you get into this crazy, crazy industry?
Oh, but first, before we begin, I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity, just gratitude. Super excited to share with you and your followers. So this is awesome. How I got started with Culture Booster, I would say it was a roundabout way. I spent over 17 years in retail automotive, did everything from being a receptionist all the way to a sales manager. And then most recently, I was a consultant. So I travel around the country working with large dealer groups doing employee engagement and leadership development work. And in the response to an RFP for one of our clients, they wanted to get a survey tool. And I searched around and was trying to find something that could be whitelisted. No one would let me do it. And so I said, I'll do it myself. And so that's where Culture Booster was born from that moment. Yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me how, as entrepreneurs, we're like, hey, we see this pain point and man, it could just be so much better if we just did something with it. And it's just a light bulb moment. So I love hearing how people get, where they started and on that journey to where they are now. So I love that story. So we know how you got there. So let's dive into this. How do you think people generally misunderstand culture?
Yeah. And I think it starts with how it's defined. Most often when people think about culture, they think about the soft stuff. This is HR or, for the people in the office. But no, the definition is all wrong. I love this definition from CEO Michael Hyatt. He says that culture is the underlying or unseen force that informs your operational output.
That's great, man.
Isn't it great?
That is great.
It's all about operations. And said differently, culture is, and this is the way that I define it, is an organization's approach to reaching their goals. So it's all about operations. Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard that definition. That's a really cool definition or definition. I know, whatever you want to call it. That works as well. So, all right. So would you mind sharing a few misconceptions about culture that you've encountered along this journey to where you are now?
Yeah. So one is, people thinking that it's the soft stuff. The second is, I think that there are really two different cultures that are out there in the world. I think culture can be simplified into two different approaches. There's the missionary, and then there's the mercenary approach. John Doerr, he's a venture capitalist. He came up with this framework, and I love it. And I've been sharing it everywhere that I go. Here's the key about both approaches, and it's really true for automotive. You can be a mercenary dealer, or you can be a missionary dealer. And the key is they both work. You can be successful in terms of your financial profitability in both buckets. But the question becomes, which would you rather be a part of? I love that missionary dealers, they're all about passion. Mercenary dealers, they're all about paranoia. You can see this in dealerships on Saturday morning when they used to pull up the newspaper with the competitors' ads. And it's like, oh, we have a full page ad versus a quarter page ad, to drive traffic. So that's an example of how paranoia can drive mercenary dealers. Another, and I think this is super important, is missionary dealers are in it for the marathon, for the long run, versus mercenary dealers are in the sprint or short run mode. Dealers have, unfortunately, because of demand, they almost shot themselves in the foot for the short term ability to get car sales, because we're seeing more and more consumers in the 94-month loans, and we're seeing so much additional money over MSRP packed onto deals that people are underwater. And so it's going to impact the market in the short run versus those that play the game for the long run. And then lastly, and this is super important, is the deferred life plan versus the whole life plan. It's so often when we think about our team members, we're constantly driving output, but how can we have a different approach to the way that we structure the way that our team members work, so that they're working on the whole life plan versus the deferred life plan?
And I love this graphic that you sent over, and I was going through it. I mean, there's so many little takeaways. So I'm going to leave this up here for a little bit longer here. Is the mentor, coaches of teams, loners, you're on your own, yes. The success and significance, the lust part even of making meaning and money versus just a lust for making money. Because so many times we hear that, money is the root of all evil. Well, no. It's what you do with it, because money is not bad. It's what are you doing with it? So there are so many little key takeaways from just that one graphic. I was like, whoa, this is all right. We're throwing out some heat down here. Okay, I see what's going on here.
But it's true. And when you think about leadership and its influence on culture, like it's so important. Like, coaching is the best strategy, right? But how often are we coaching our team? How often are we taking the moments and say, hey, great job. Let's reward that behavior. Or are we redirecting behavior that we don't want to see? And so that's where coaching really makes a difference. And missionary dealers do a great job with that. Yeah.
This is so true. I think we may have just answered this. I know we're talking about, like, in what ways does your company, Culture Booster, work to dispel all these misunderstandings? And I think what we just talked about kind of would sum that up. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Absolutely. So in our platform, we have a tool called Summary that does a phenomenal job. We know that in environments where there is coaching present, that the teams perform higher. And so what we've done is we've systematized one-on-ones so that managers, when they meet with their team, that they're leaving those meetings aligned, that they're clear on what the goals are. But we also do things like burnout checks so that we can check in and see, hey, you've been putting in a lot of hours. How are you doing with their stress level? And then what's your sentiment toward the organization? And we roll that up so that the dealers can know how they're trending with regard to their stress levels and also their productivity as well.
If I can't even imagine what that would have been when I was working at a company and being like, oh, so Brooke's burnout level is 1 gazillion%. I don't know. Her burnout is, she was burned out 12 years ago. Like how incredible it is that we have these tools, man. Oh my God. I remember when you were talking beforehand, you were telling me about this. I go, wait, you can actually see whether people are burned out. Like for a company that actually wants to do this and that is engaged enough to say, hey, I actually care about my employees. I want this. Right. Holy crap, this is incredible. Like for anyone that's listening right now, one, if you're not listening, why are you not listening? Get yourself, check yourself right now. You should, because this is so incredible that now you can actually see before that turnover is so costly. Do you know how much it takes to, and I'm sure that you know these numbers are off the top of your head, to then bring on a new employee, to train the new employee, all those, everything that takes. And you know before they ever quit that they're already on their way out the door. Like that is invaluable. I would say it's invaluable, but it's the numbers on that speak for themselves. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely our secret sauce. And you're exactly right. Some of the conservative estimates out there would put the cost of turnover at $10,000 per employee. And if you do the math, let's just say you've got a 4,000 employee dealer group. And let's say they turn over 25%, right? And so 800 times that 10,000 is a lot of change. And so it is. And so what we do is we prevent early exits, and that's the key. With the data, we can look for what we call blips, where a person's stress level exceeds their sentiment level. And then from there, you can provide the support that you need. Maybe Rodney needs a day off, or maybe we need to take some of the workload off of this technician so that we can transfer it over to someone else. And when we can find that, that's where we can step in and make a difference for the long term.
Oh, I absolutely love it. It's so key. I mean, as we've talked about, culture or, mentors and everything previously, the way to take this and take that one step further is to say, okay, wait a minute, we have all these different generations, whether it's someone that's 19 to 91, everybody's going to work differently. And they have different mentalities on what a workload should be. That's a whole other topic. But to know, okay, so they're reaching that capacity. When you told me that, my mind just goes, duh, this is freaking incredible. There was other words that came out of my mouth, but I was like, this is absolutely incredible. So I love that you all are doing this. And it is such a needed topic. And it's such a needed grading sentiment to know that we are reaching that. And we need to stop them. I remember I had a manager at one point, and I do have a problem where I work a lot. It's something I'm working on of being a workaholic. And I kept sending emails. He's like, Brooke, if I get one more email from you after 10 o'clock at night, let alone at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to take your computer from you. Stop it. I was like, I don't know. How am I supposed to get my work? He's like, please, for the love, stop emailing me at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, just stop.
Not sustainable, right? And they're right. Absolutely. We're type A's. We can't help it. It's just how we're wired. But we can get people in our lives that care, that tell us, hey, you need to take a break. Rest is important as a people.
Yes. Okay, so what are some of the biggest hurdles you encounter in altering culture perceptions? And honestly, how do you overcome them?
That's a great question. When we're working with organizations, typically they've come to the realization that they need some help. That's probably the most difficult part. So often in the marketplace, people think, oh, my culture is great, right? Well, then give me some data that backs that up, right? And so they know their CSI scores really well. They know how their financial statements are performing. But what's your EEI score? Do you know on a scale of -100 to 100, where are you? And if you don't know, that's a problem. And maybe your culture may not be as great. Maybe you're afraid to tip that apple cart, but there's some amazing things that can happen when you do tip it. Yeah.
And just because you paid for an award saying you're the best and whatever, does not mean your culture is great. I'm sorry. You paid for that award. You paid someone off. It doesn't work that way.
Yes. I'm not going to count any names out there, top places to work, but I'm just saying.
That's funny. Did we talk about this beforehand, or you just read my mind? I'm not sure. Every time I see that award, I'm like, and paid for it. Gotcha.
That's right. No, but we roll up our sleeves. We do. We roll up our sleeves and we do the work, and it shows up in the results. It really does. Yeah,
it does. All right. So we've talked about the hurdles. So can you provide some instances of culture misunderstandings that have been detrimental to businesses or individuals?
Yeah, I think there's a part of culture that, again, when we go back to the definition about it's about operations and how you approach the work. One of our tools that's most effective is we do scorecards, and the role that KPIs play in culture. I think about my time as a sales manager, and I had a manager that would say, okay, this week we want you to fix gross. And so then I hurried over and I fixed gross. And now the next week it was fix volume. And so now I'm putting all my efforts over there. And so the idea came was, why don't we put them all in one place so I know what the goal is, so I know what the target is. And so that's one of the key tools that we have in our system that really nails home this point for operations is helping people to see what clear targets are. Because, and I love this quote, I counted it recently, people will optimize to the metrics their organization prioritizes. They will optimize, they will work towards those goals. And so when we understand that, when we provide them with those tools, your team will provide, they'll get some amazing things accomplished. Yeah.
I love that. It is just, and also with that is that if you have one, please have a mission statement. If you don't, get one. Two, but if you're holding all of that to yourself and just thinking that your team's going to know it, it doesn't work that way. If they don't know what the goals are, they don't know what success looks like to you, how are they supposed to achieve success? They don't know. Don't hold on to yourself and be like, yeah, I'm going to hold it like my little bear and Tommy Boy and pet it and stroke it and then rip off its head. Like you've got to allow and provide everyone with the same knowledge so that they can strive towards that and roll the boat in the same way so everybody knows what the goal is and go and strive towards that goal. I see that so often. It's like, well, that's great that you are trying to achieve X, but you're literally not letting anybody else know that same thing. So how are they supposed to get there?
Yeah.
So frustrating.
And when you hide information, you're not developing your bench. And so where are your future leaders? Where are your future managers? And so if someone does exit, all the institutional knowledge goes with them, right? And so it's important to give access to information, build those future leaders within your dealership. It'll make a difference. Yeah.
Huge. So with Culture Booster, what strategies do you all use to foster better understandings with diverse cultures? Because they're all over the map.
Well said. So another tool. So Culture Booster, I should preface this. Culture Booster is 6 tools that work together in harmony to improve employee experience. So we talked about scorecards a little bit earlier. We talked about summary, which is one-on-ones. We also do surveys. And our surveys, our employee engagement surveys, do a great job of splicing data so that you can see how specific groups are experiencing your organization. One, shout out to WOCON, the Women in Automotive Conference. So we can see how women are experiencing your dealer group. We can see how Generation Z, we can see how different ethnicities are experiencing your organization. And from there, you can provide the support that's needed to get people back in the game if they're out of it. And so it really does make a difference.
That is so incredible to be able to see all different, see everything. I mean, I was having a conversation with my clients recently, and we were just going through some Facebook metrics on the social media. And I just go, are you aware that females interact and like your Facebook page like 70% versus 30% males? But I go, you guys are targeting 70% males versus 30% females. I go, does anybody aware of this? Well, we didn't know. I go, also, are you aware that Spanish is your second most language?
Yeah.
And I go, do you have any Spanish employees on, and also, do you have females in your any female employees? Yeah. No. Do you have any Spanish speaking employees? No. That's a problem. So like being able to see how not only how they're, what they're doing, who's interacting, how they're viewing, because our perceptions are our realities. And so we view it this way, but what about everybody else? Because that's how they're viewing it and that's their perception and that's their reality. So it's so important. Oh my goodness, it's so important. So important.
Yeah.
So what are the most significant challenges you face in changing people's perception about culture?
I think there aren't a lot of people that wake up in the morning and they're like, I want to work on culture today.
No, not so much. Very few.
So in terms of our strategy, it's really about inertia. It's about showing teams, helping them to behave before they believe. Once they see that, oh, if I have this coaching conversation and we talk about what Brooke's interests are, I know that doesn't feel right in the beginning. But if I have those conversations over time, I can learn some amazing things about Brooke and your life, and then we can build a connection. And I think that's really what's missing is we can talk about the numbers all day, that comes easy for us, but connecting with the whole human, that takes a little bit of growth and development. And so getting people to behave before they believe, and then after they do it over time, you can see some amazing results, and it shows up in your relationships, but it also shows up in your financial statements as well. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, we've talked before about the why, figuring out your employees' why, which then if you figure out their why, they're going to understand that you really care about them and that they're going to now run for a wall for you. That also means that if your employees are happy, we always think, customer first. Actually should be employee first. Because we put the employee first, now they're putting the customer first.
Yes.
And when this whole mindset that the customer is always right, understand though, if you're putting the employee first, they will make sure everything else falls in line.
That's right.
And so by going through and taking that time to understand that, hey, I know Brooke, she has a bit of an addiction with Jordans. So we know her why for a portion of making money is to go blow it on Jordans. Okay, she knows that. But like I jokingly say that, but I know I've talked about this previously, but knowing that, like why is all this stuff important? And when I know that my boss, holy crap, they're actually taking an interest in me, and what's important to me. Holy crap. Now, when I become a manager, or even when I become a very good leader, because I don't need to be a manager to be a leader, but now I'm like, oh, now I'm going to take an interest in my people. And then and then my consumers and my clients, that ripple effect is infinite. It's amazing how much that works. I love it. I love it.
And then you're also guarding yourself against poaching. So if another dealer, offers me $10,000 more, that money may look good, but what am I going to get myself into? If I have a really great culture that I am proud to work for, and I love that experience, I may not open that door to those asks or those DMs that come through. Yeah.
Very, very true. It's, I'll just say yes to that. All right. So can you provide some examples of culture that are generally misunderstood? Because we've talked about change the perception, but what are examples of how cultures are generally misunderstood? We've kind of talked about it, but maybe take it a little bit different direction.
In terms of misunderstanding of culture is, again, this isn't the soft stuff. This is the operations. And so the systems and the tools that we put in place to make sure that we have amazing employee experiences, and those amazing employee experiences will spill over to create loyal customers for us. And I love your point. People first, right? If we put our people first, amazing things can happen. And if we can empower our employees, even better. If we have some tools in place, there's a dealer, shout out to Dream Automotive Group. They empower their team members to do some amazing things for their customers. There was a story of a mother who needed something for her baby. One of the employees ran out and they got that for that mother. They had a personal budget to go out and do that. Think about that experience that mom had with the dealership just by them being empowered. And so if we can shift our perceptions, to create these moments where we can create these magical moments, like they do at Disney. If we can do that in our dealerships, imagine the loyalty that we'll get from our customers.
That's so we go from that experience of that dealership and the shining example of that. So the question's got to be asked in your mind: is there a culture that can't be boosted?
Oh. When you gave me that question, I was so excited to answer it. So I will say no with an asterisk.
Okay, all right. I'm very excited to hear this answer right now, because I'm like, I've got a couple. I have business in my mind. I'm like, oh man, I've written them off my Christmas list. I'm excited to hear this answer right now.
So is there a culture that can't be boosted? The answer is no. And I'm going to tell you a story. Well, actually, let me ask. Have you heard of the Christmas truce?
The Christmas truce?
Yes.
I know I've heard of, no, I don't think I have.
Okay, so in World War One, in 1914, on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, there was a truce between the British and the German soldiers. And
Yes.
so the question is always, what led to that coming to be? What led to that truce in that moment? And a lot of people, they think, oh, it was the significance of Christmas. Like Christmas is such a, an amazing day that, that's what birthed it. But that's actually not true. It was a series of events that led up to that truce being coming into play. So you had to think of you can't think of a more contentious environment than two people that are at war with each other, right? And so how does it come about where they are at truce? On that day, they played football together. They shared food. They even caroled. So they sang songs. How do you get two enemies to come together and then work in harmony for a day? And the answer is by small acts of vulnerability. By at night, one of the snipers would send a signal to say, "I'm done for the night," and it's safe. There were times where they would pick up their dead loved ones, and bring them back, so that they could bury them. There were these instances of them working together. And so I say all that to say is that there is no culture. If you could think of a situation where there's so much contention, there isn't. I can't think of any other one other than that. And they found a way to work harmoniously. I say all that to say is with an asterisk that a couple of years later, the people from the top said there can be no more truces. So if you don't have leadership buy-in, that's the asterisk, then your efforts will fail. But even in the most contentious situations, in the most contentious cultures, there can be harmony if people work together. Yeah.
And that's what I was like, okay, the asterisk has got to be the leadership, because like, I can definitely like think off the top of my head, as I'm sure we all are. And anyone that's watching, listen right now, like, yeah, well, I'm never shopping there again. All right. I'm not, there's a reason why I left that company. The culture was, I remember reading this article. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. It was all about what the I think it was more like the definition of toxic work environment or toxic work cultures. And now that term gets thrown around so much, but what does it actually mean? Because you can just have a really like shitty work environment, but it might not be actually toxic. It was such an incredible read. And I was like, oh, okay. And I like look back at some of my places I'd worked and then other places I knew other people worked. I was like, so this was just a bad manager, but it may not have been a toxic work culture. Right. And it was just like, so we throw terms around thinking that we know what they mean, when in fact you're just perpetuating a stereotype that isn't actually true.
Yeah. And
it was so interesting to break that down. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that was actually toxic, or that was a toxic manager, but this was just a really bad person that just didn't know what the heck they were doing, and they were overwhelmed, they weren't trained, blah blah blah. That wasn't actually so. Anyways, it was very interesting. So, to your point, that's the asterisk is if you don't have, you can have a great tool like Culture Brochure, you can have someone like Stephen here, but all these tools like anything are great, but if you're not going to use them.
That's right.
Why have them?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point. What strategies does Culture Brochure employ to promote a better understanding of various cultures?
Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to circle back if we can just.
Oh yeah.
I want to share 2 stats. For your listeners to that will reinforce that point that you made. 70% of an employee's employee engagement level is directly associated with their relationship with their manager. So to your point about manager influencing employee engagement and the experience that they have, 70% of their engagement comes from that relationship. Another stat that you brought up that was super powerful. And when I heard this, it blew my mind. Most managers have been in their role for 10 years before they ever receive any training on how to be a manager.
That is so bad, man. That is so horrible. Oh,
what job have you ever been on where they don't give you training to do the job, right? And so that's where we come in. So we wanted to make tools turnkey for managers. We wanted to make it easy for them to have a holistic conversation. So that's a part of our approach is bridging that gap. But thank you for
So hold on, we gotta go back to those stats real quickly. My mind's going a million miles there. Is that only in automotive? Is that in general with managers?
Yeah, in general. So the first stat is from Gallup. So 70% of an employee engagement level, it stems from the relationship with the manager. And then 10 years is the average that a manager is in a role before they ever receive any training on how to be a manager.
This is like, hey, apply for a job. You need to have 10 years experience, but I can't get the experience unless you give me the experience. Oh yeah, but yeah, please. What are we doing here? Like,
yes, we're setting them up to fail. We are setting them up to fail. And we wonder why people leave early. It's because of the relationship with their manager. You're spot on, but yeah.
That is not, I've never heard that. That is very, very interesting. Wow. Thank you for sharing. That is nuts. And this just goes back to like, we invest so much in whether we're selling a vehicle, whether we're in the service lane, whatever you're doing, whether it's you're selling groceries or whatever it may be, whatever you're doing, for the love, train your people and continue to train your people. I was reading something, I think it was last week, about Samsung and how many, like, I think it's billions of dollars. I'm sure it's at least millions. It might be billions of dollars. They invest just in R&D to stay up with the times. I mean, I can tell you in our house, we have way more TVs than we should have as a household. They're all Samsung because Samsung, their TVs are phenomenal. It's because of how much money they invest in their TVs. Like, their TVs are phenomenal.
Yeah.
But if you don't continue to invest in research and development, and what is research? That's in essence, I'll say it's training, but you're continuing to research to get better. You got to research and develop your team. And man, that is, I was not expecting you to throw down that stat. I'm a little bit blown away by that. And that's not in a good way. So
we have work to do.
Yeah, a little bit, man, a little bit. Wow. Okay. So I was going to say, how do you measure I was going to jump to the question about how do you measure the impact of work and business after that stat. So I'm just actually going to jump to that question right now, is how do you measure the impact of your work at a business?
Yeah. There's a number of things. So we define ourselves as a performance management and an employee engagement tool. So we do both really well. From an employee engagement standpoint, our goal is to increase your EEI. So just like you have a CSI that you're measuring for your customers, we want to have a baseline starting point of where you're at, what's your score today, and then we work to improve that based on the actions that your management and leadership team implement. From a performance management standpoint, we want to take all of your most important KPIs and we want to grow them. And we know that through focused action, you can achieve those amazing results, because here's what we found. People are motivated like thermostats. If you set a goal, there are people out there that want to hit the goal, but then there's other people that want to know what's the least amount of effort that I need to do to keep my job. And then you have the crazies like you and I, the type A's, that they're all about the stretch, right? They want to hit a home run every single time. And so we do that with our scorecard tool, is we set up those benchmarks for each one of the KPIs. And that's how we get measurable outcomes for our clients. That's how we change the score.
Now, we a couple times we've thrown down an acronym, and so I just want to circle back to this. So if anybody's asking, what the hell is EEI, Brooke? Explain what that is to our audience.
Yeah, so it's called Employee Engagement Index. So EEI, think of it as your customer satisfaction score for your employees. And when they answer the question, how likely are you to recommend your dealer group to your family and friends, or as a great place to work? That's how we get our measurement. So it's a Likert style question, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And then we take a percentage of the people that would say yes to that and a percentage that would say no to that. We divide that by the number of respondents and then multiply that by 100. And that's how you get your EEI score. Great question.
And I thought there'd be no math in this episode today, but there has been a little bit of math. So I do apologize, everyone.
Yes,
We got to keep everyone on our toes here. All right. So we've talked about, misunderstandings. We've talked about some math here. We got to hear some success stories, because you're out there, you're doing your thing, you're helping people out. So what are some success stories you've had of enhancing culture understanding?
Yeah, I think about one of our first clients. They came to us because their employees were getting ready to unionize. And actually, with the new era of work that we're in, we're starting to see a lot more unionization happening. And it's in a direct response of not having the systems and the tools in place to listen to your employees and then put the feedback into action. And so when they came to us, they were a splintered organization in terms of that scale of negative 100 to 100. They were hovering in what we would call the neutral category range and for their EEI score. And then in less than 6 months through our targeted approach, they increased by 40 basis points. And so we're able to change the score by having focused action. Just like we can disaggregate our data based off of demographic groups, we can disaggregate it based on departments, and we can put strategic action plans in place to change the score. And so in that short time, and from an anecdotal standpoint, I'll never forget the CEO, when they were looking at our bill that comes across each month, and they said, we're changing the score, but should we continue paying for this? And I'll never forget her name. Her name is Lisa. She responded. She says, "Things feel differently here." And it was that one statement that said, "Yes, we'll continue paying for it," because you're making a difference in people's lives. There's so many people that wake up in the morning and they hit that snooze button because they're coming into a culture that doesn't help them bring their best selves to work. You have people that are driving into work and they're like, "Is this going to be the day that I put in my pink slip?" Because there's that much anxiety. Or people that on Sunday morning, when they're thinking about coming into work on Monday and they got that stomach churn, right? We don't want that experience for our employees. We want to make sure that it's a get to, not a got to when we go to work. So,
God, and it is. I mean, so often we are in a business where if I can't measure it, it's not worth it. But it's like, okay, well, let's slow down. Just because you can't physically, it's a piece of metal. So, I moved a piece of metal, so I can therefore count this, and it's a measurable thing, and therefore we need to keep it. There's so many things that keep businesses lights on that same thing with marketing. I mean, it's really, did that actually sell a car? No. Or back to the selling a car thing. Did it sell cars? Like, come on. Like, let's get out of that mindset, because at the end of the day, all of this stuff does help sell cars, and there's a massive ROI. But when we look at it as a black and white, did this equal a sold car? Well, it's very old school way of thinking. So I love that you brought that up of like, things just kind of feel different right now. And I don't know what it is, but something's changed, and our people are happier. I mean, that's a big thing. And people are happy. People want to be, I don't want to go in a place where I get ignored and people are just overall, they're just really grumpy. Like, why would I go shop at a place like that? I'm not going in that place. So that's an awesome example. I love that example. Can you talk about a situation of like, how does leadership that exemplify the culture you wish to see in other, like your actual culture at your company, and how you like to see that in other organizations?
Wow. It's a great question. So we always task ourselves with drinking our own Kool-Aid. If we're going to be promoters of culture, we have to have a great culture ourselves. And so we do a number of things. One, we use our own tools in our platform. So we do our scorecards, we do our huddles. And it was actually, and I want to share a quick story. We had an engineer that we didn't know. He's based in India. He was only going to be with us for part-time. We didn't know it. We thought he was going to be with us for the long haul. And we asked questions, holistic questions, and we found out that he was getting mirrored. And so, I'm in India, what do? We sent them some money, as a gift, because we can't send flowers or anything. It's hard internationally. And that small gesture of us pulling together money and sending him a wedding gift, one, we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't asked the questions in our one-on-one. If we just focused on the technical stuff, we would have not known what was happening in his life. And then two, by responding, by stepping up and sending that thoughtful gift, he is now more committed to us than the other projects that he's working on. And so he's been with us going on a year and a couple months now, all because we responded and we created an environment where he could feel connected to some great work. Yeah.
I love that. That actually, I've got up here the next question, and that literally just like, I think you just answered. I'm like, what role does empathy play in the work culture? Mm-hmm. And it's like that 100% is that. Like when you show that, we forget, so not everyone, a lot of times we forget how important empathy is and how that also gets confused with other terms. So I'm going to let you just expand on that a little bit more. You just had an awesome example there, but do you want to take that a little bit more on that question?
Yeah. I think there's a poem that I love by Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. If we can go into our workdays, I'm talking to leaders right now, because they're you're going to be on the call. If we can create these moments where we create positive emotional connections with our team members, that's how we get the culture that we want to see. That's how we get work to becoming a get to and not a got to. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Let's round it out with, how are the values of business reflected in day-to-day operations and decision-making processes?
Great question. So I told you before about some other tools that we have in Culture Boosters. So we talked about surveys. We talked about our one-on-one tool. We talked about scorecards and how they help people to focus. But there's another tool that we have in our platform called STARS, which is praise and recognition. There's a book called The 1 Minute Manager. And in it, Kim Blanchard talks about the importance of catching people doing the right thing. And in our praise and recognition tool, we have what's called a tagger, where you can tag the values of your organization to see what the employees lived out in that moment. So, Brooke, you exercised empathy when you did X, or Brooke, you exercised excellence when you did this event. And those moments of just, rather than just saying good job, but taking the time to send a note, via our platform, via text message or an email that comes through. It's that people put in their gratitude files and they go home and they talk to their family about what they did that day. And look, they show it off to their team, to their kids. Well, look what daddy did today. Look what mommy did today. And it really makes a difference in people's lives.
That is awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share with the viewers, or a main takeaway of everything that we've talked about today?
Yeah, I love the topic. Just culture is misunderstood. It's not the soft stuff. Yes, it overlaps, but it's really about your operations. And if you can have the right tools in place, you can impact the place where we spend the most of our time, which is at work. And we can make a difference. At the end of your career, when you are retired and you're looking at it on the beach, what are you going to be most proud of? Are you going to be most proud of all the financial performance that you had? Or are you going to be most proud of the difference that you made in people's lives? And so that's what our goal is at Culture Boosters. We want to make a difference, improve people's work lives, so they can bring their best selves to work each day.
I love it. And it's in the whole point of the show, the whole reason I started this show and started turning on the camera was like, if I can just help one person, that's all at the whole goal. And I know that sometimes comes across as like super corny or cliche, and that's really what it is. And I've always been a pack myself. If I can't be authentic, I'll never turn on the camera. And I love what you're saying there, because it's the whole thing. Like, if you can just help people, like just help them move the industry forward. So I absolutely love that. So without any further ado, we are going to jump into more. So go first and foremost, how can people get in touch with you? I know for those that are watching, right down here, you're going to see Steven's personalized link here. But for those that are listening, how can they get in touch with you? How can they find you? How can they find you?
Yeah, one, you can go to culturebooster.com to learn more about our company. You can go to LinkedIn and search for Steven R. Moore, and I should show up there. I think I'm on. Sometimes I'm on Twitter. I'm more of an observer than a contributor. But LinkedIn is probably the best place that you can see some of our thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So when you're not changing the world and being Superman and saving everybody and making culture better, and you've got some free time, what are you doing?
Oh my goodness. My favorite place to be in the entire world is on a golf course. I love playing golf. I wish that I could do it more. The second thing is hanging out with my daughters. We're probably building Legos or painting or doing some dancing. Yeah, something like that.
I love it. I got to follow up the golf question. What type of clothes do you have?
Callaway.
That's right. That's what I do as well. Okay. I love it. All right. So the name of the show is Facts Not Feelings. So what are you doing? It can be personal or in your business to distinguish facts from feelings.
We are, rather than going with gut with regard to culture, we are providing data or metrics. So that's where our EEI score comes in. And we're also helping people to know how well they're performing through our scorecards, on a consistent basis. Yeah.
Love it. All right, let's go with what do you love most about the industry, our wonderful industry?
Oh my goodness. This is cliche, but it's the people.
Yeah,
Man, I could list off so many names. Charlie Rizzoli. I could list off Kevin Kentner. I could list off Adam and Paul from Dream Motor Group. I mean, there's just so many people. They would literally give you the shirt off of their back. The vendors, I'm meeting some amazing vendors. We are great people at Automotive. Yeah, we got a bad rap, but there's some really, really amazing people in the industry.
could not agree more. It's lifetime friends. I mean, honestly, the whole reason I know you is because of Micah. And Micah, I mean, speaking of amazing people, and they are my go-to whenever anything like I trust them with my life. I know they would literally take a bullet for me in a heartbeat. So yes, 100% agree on that one. So I got to know, what is your favorite car?
Oh my goodness. When I make it one day, you will see me rolling in a Range Rover Autobiography Edition.
I love it.
All black. It's just tinted windows. I may not have tinted windows so you can see that it's me. But
I will know. So that's all that matters. That's all it matters. All right, let's round out with, you've thrown out a couple of really good quotes during our wonderful episode today. So what is your favorite quote?
Ideas are easy. Execution is everything. And anything worth doing, it takes a team to win.
Okay, who said that? John, you?
John Doerr. No, I wish.
You're like, well, I said it after him, but yes. All right. Well, Stephen, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure speaking with you and learning from you. Man, this is one of those I'm going to have to go back and like rewatch it and take a bunch more notes and just thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And everyone, you know the drill at this point. You know it. Find a way to serve today. Find a way to help your fellow neighbor, like your colleague, whatever it may be. It can be a kind smile. It can be opening up a door for someone. Just find a way to help someone today. And with that, everyone, we will see everybody next week.
Booster.com to learn more about our company. You can go to LinkedIn and search for Stephen R. Moore, and I should show up there. I think I'm on. Sometimes I'm on Twitter. I'm more of an observer than a contributor. But LinkedIn is probably the best place that you can see some of our thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So when you're not changing the world and being Superman and saving everybody and making culture better, and you've got some free time, what are you doing?
Oh my goodness. My favorite place to be in the entire world is on a golf course. I love playing golf. I wish that I could do it more. The second thing is hanging out with my daughters. We're probably building Legos or painting or doing some dancing. Yeah, something like that.
I love it. I got to follow up the golf question. What type of clothes do you have?
Callaway.
That's what I do as well. Okay. I love it. All right. So the name of the show is Facts Not Feelings. So what are you doing? It can be personal or in your business to distinguish facts from feelings.
We are, rather than going with gut with regard to culture, we are providing data or metrics. So that's where our EEI score comes in. And we're also helping people to know how well they're performing through our scorecards, on a consistent basis. Yeah.
Love it. All right, let's go with what do you love most about the industry, our wonderful industry?
Oh my goodness. This is cliche, but it's the people. Man, I could list off so many names. Charlie Rizzoli. I could list off Kevin Kentner. I could list off Adam and Paul from Dream Motor Group. I mean, there's just so many people. They would literally give you the shirt off of their back. The vendors, I'm meeting some amazing vendors. We are great people at Automotive. Yeah, we got a bad rap, but there's some really, really amazing people in
Could not agree more. It's lifetime friends. I mean, honestly, the whole reason I know you is because of Micah. And Micah, I mean, speaking of amazing people, and they are my go-to whenever anything like I trust them with my life. I know they would literally take a bullet for me in a heartbeat. So yes, 100% agree on that one. So I got to know, what is your favorite car?
Oh my goodness. When I make it one day, you will see me rolling in a Range Rover Autobiography Edition.
I love it.
All black. It's just tinted windows. I may not have tinted windows so you can see that it's me, but
I will know. So that's all that matters. That's all it matters. All right, let's round out with, you've thrown out a couple of really good quotes during our wonderful episode today. So what is your favorite quote?
Ideas are easy. Execution is everything. And anything worth doing, it takes a team to win.
Ooh. Okay, who said that? John, you?
John Doerr. No, I wish.
You're like, well, I said it after him, but yes. All right. Well, Stephen, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure speaking with you and learning from you. Man, it's just been, this is one of those I'm going to have to go back and like rewatch it and take a bunch more notes and just thank you so much. I so appreciate it. And everyone, you know the drill at this point. You know it. Find a way to serve today. Find a way to help your fellow neighbor, like your colleague, whatever it may be. It can be a kind smile. It can be opening up a door for someone. Just find a way to help someone today. And with that, everyone, we will see everybody next week.